Out here in the desert, it's getting hot, and a lot of people are going to be hitting the trails out here in the summer. We're in the Mojave Desert, and unfortunately, a lot of people die on these trails out here. Today, we're going to talk about death on the trail and two things that I think will help people survive, and it could even save someone's life. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today we're going to talk about some tips when you're off-roading out here in the Mojave Desert on the trails out here. Unfortunately, a lot of people die when they go off-roading. If you check out the trails around here, there's going to be this big yellow sign that is put up by the government, and it has a skull and crossbones on it, and it basically says people have died, and there's skull and crossbones, and it says, you know, do this at your own risk, be careful, all these sorts of things. Many people think that that's a fear tactic or the government's way of trying to, you know, scare people into being careful. But sadly, all of those signs are true. Everywhere you see that skull and crossbones sign on a trail out here, somebody has died off-road. And many times more than one person has died off-road. So unfortunately, the signs are indeed true. Now, some people may think, well, some of these trails are rated easy or even moderate, nothing's really too technical or difficult, and that may be true, but the issue out here is not necessarily the trail itself, but the environment. So as the sign says, people die of exposure, and particularly in the summer, they'll die of heat exposure and not being prepared for that. So today we're going to talk about this stuff right here and how it could help you if you're off-roading in the summer on these hot trails out here when it's 115, 120 degrees or higher. Now, disclaimer, this is not going to be some comprehensive desert commando type of video. This is just going to share one more thing that I think you should have if you off-road in the desert out here in the summer. Now, real quick, you're going to, of course, want to have water, plenty of it, and you're going to want to tell someone where you're going, and you're going to want to have all your backup gear, your ropes, your recovery equipment, anything else that you normally have. So I'm not going to keep going on about the obvious. Bring water, bring food, tell someone where you're going, and have your recovery stuff with you. Instead, I'm going to just talk about this stuff here, which is essentially powdered electrolyte and how it can help you when you're off-road. So basically, you just keep this stuff in your car. This one's called Liquid IV, and this one's called LMNT, or maybe Lament is how you say it, I'm not sure. But this is essentially a powder form of electrolyte, or Gatorade, if you will. And the biggest issue out here when you're off-roading in the summer is being depleted of your electrolytes. And if you're not from the desert or acclimated to the desert, you may not realize what's going on when you go through the stages of heat exposure if you're unfamiliar with how electrolytes work with the mind and body. So I know that was a little bit of a rambling. What I'm trying to say is simple. If you're not used to the desert, most people are going to drink water instead of electrolytes. Now, of course, it's not a matter of one or the other. The point is, you should have plenty of electrolytes in your system if you're going to be in the heat or exposed to the heat or potentially trapped in a hot environment. Reason being is when you sweat in this heat, you'll lose your electrolytes very, very quick, and your mind will begin to go. You'll begin to feel squirrely. Your mental capacities will get fuzzy, and that's when things start to go bad. That's when your judgment doesn't work. That's when if you're stuck off-road, you get out and start walking for help. You're not thinking clearly, essentially, and that is not due necessarily to dehydration, but rather a lack of electrolytes in your system. So when you go to the hospital for lack of electrolytes, and I have gone to the hospital for lack of electrolytes when I first moved here about 11 years ago. And I kept drinking water, and I flushed all the electrolytes out, and I started feeling like I was going to pass out, and I ended up in the emergency room. And the first thing they're going to do is plug in an IV full of this stuff. So that's what's in that IV, nothing but a bunch of electrolytes, salts and sugars, potassium, minerals, all that sort of stuff. Immediately you start feeling better, and you know, they sent me home after whatever, an hour or two on electrolytes. Bottom line is you are depleted of your electrolytes, and that's when things go bad. So this stuff here you just mix with water, follow the instructions, mix it with your water, and you can sip it, you can drink it, you know, chug it if you need, or you can sip it as you're going down the trail, or you could keep a bunch of it, you know, in your glove box for emergencies like this whenever you need it. The point is, this is what's going to, in this sort of environment, keep your mental clarity good on a hot, hot day. Now, if you're not from the desert or are not acclimated to the desert, many people will say, well, you know, I'm from the East Coast, or I'm from a humid climate, what's the big deal? I know I can deal with heat. The heat is different in the desert. The heat does something else. I don't know how to explain it. All I know is I'll say that I think in a dry heat you tend to not realize just how hot and dehydrated and I don't have the words, but lacking of electrolytes, electrolyte depleted. You don't realize how depleted of this stuff you are until it's too late or almost too late. Because the sweat on your body evaporates in a dry heat rather quickly, you don't sit in your own sweat and your clothes don't feel wet. You feel dry out here. So you don't realize just how much electrolytes you're losing, how much water you're losing until it's too late. Now, people from here, and if you're from the desert, you already know this. This is second nature to you. So, of course, this video is meant for people who don't live in the desert, who just travel here to off-road, visit, and you know, try out off-roading in the desert. It's for those who are not used to this phenomena of sweating without knowing you're sweating. That's the best way I could say it. You don't know how much you're sweating because you don't feel sticky and wet. And until you're acclimated to what that feels like, this is a great way to make sure you don't get into trouble. This smaller one has like double the sodium, about 1,000 milligrams a packet, and this one has 500 milligrams a packet. So you have, you know, you can mix and match, do whatever you want. The point is, it's there to be a liquid IV, which is literally what they call this, liquid IV. So the same stuff I got in the hospital, that's what this is. So, you know, it's no joke. It's a liquid IV. But you've got to realize that your body, despite what, you know, the water manufacturers, bottled water manufacturers, and all the hype about water, you need water to live and this, that, and the other. That's true. Don't get me wrong. But your body is a bioelectrical type of thing. It doesn't just need water. You can't survive on water. The groundwater that we drink has minerals in it. It goes to the rocks. It picks up all those minerals, all that stuff. And that's what makes you feel good when you drink water. Not necessarily the water part of it, but all the minerals that are in it. That's why you can't drink, let's say, distilled water where the minerals are taken out of it. You'll end up in the hospital needing some IV. So that's the point of this stuff, is that the body actually needs this. These minerals, this potassium, what do we got in here? Potassium, niacin, sugars, vitamin D, all sorts of acids, you know, electrolytes. So you need this. This is what you need when you feel hot or dehydrated or deplenished of, you know, nutrients and when you feel squirrely is what I'm trying to babble out here. I'm sorry I'm not being articulate, but I'm just trying to drive the point home that if you're new to the desert or you're visiting or you're not acclimated, do realize that you're going to sweat a whole lot and not realizing just how much you're sweating. And when you sweat, you lose those electrolytes and you start getting into a weird type of mental trouble, and things just snowball from there. By adding this to your water, it literally feels like the fountain of youth. It literally is an IV. You immediately feel this stuff almost go straight to every cell in your body and replenish you. And it could be the difference between life or death. I hate to sound dramatic, but unfortunately people have died on these trails, and when they find them, they usually just find a couple things of bottled water. They don't even find Gatorade. They don't even find snacks sometimes. This could mean the difference. So if you found this video helpful, please remember to like and subscribe. Remember, I'm not simply saying just have this and that's it. I'm saying throw this in, and if you're feeling squirrely, throw this in your water, drink it, you'll feel better.
Divided from the century of the cool cat, dig down with the clean of the hot hat, lift up face, and then they knocking on my door. I've been feeling the boom, this is really after 4. So what's up with that core was really just for yo, break out the sword and let's go cruising in your Ford. Watch out, yeah, sweet snow is the deal. As she shouted, it's the funky lesson 1 to the grill. I should have known that something wasn't right in walking. The biggity boom was just ticking and clocking. A nice boy in plaid is passed from his dad. Another straight in the fight man, but he wasn't from the right clan. Stop all the nonsense, defense is my defense. Oh yeah. I know the mode is daily dense. Time has passed on, but it's been a million days. We're still nice and divided, running round in haze. Nothing divided. Nothing divided from the century of the cool cat. Dig down with the clean of the hot hat. Flip that bass and then they knocking at my door.